The following podcast is recorded and produced by Emerge, a media creators co-op.
Perfect money. The reason that you had stable prices throughout the gold era, the gold standard age, is gold was inflating about 2% a year. And the economy is growing 2% a year. And so if the output of goods and services grow at the rate of the money supply, the price is constant. Okay? If the money supply is fixed and the economy grew 2% a year, prices will fall 2% every year.
Right.
Then and by the way, in technology, when you look at technical products where the company grows productivity faster than 2%, in a gold world, the price would fall very fast. Okay, so what's going on is there's a race between productivity and money supply. And if I can drive the price of the product down 20% a year, I can inflate the amount of money 10% a year, and the price of that thing will fall 10%. But if I didn't inflate the price of money, it would fall 20%, you see. So I looked at gold. I said, I need something like gold. But the problem with gold is it's a conventional asset. It had kind of recovered a bit. And I thought, it's not perfect. It's the best idea in the 19th century. And it's not quite working in the 20th century. And so I started thinking, what if someone designed digital gold? What if now we go back to the engineer saying, can you perfect gold? And the engineering idea, how do you fix gold and make it perfect? Well, you make it impossible to mine anymore. What if, and then we get into the fantasy thing. What if God came down, and there's a bit of theology here, if you allow me. If God came down and wanted to fix gold, it's impossible to make any more gold, right? How can you make it better? It'd be really great if it was weightless. How do you make it better? I'm going to cast a spell and allow you to teleport the gold anywhere on Earth. If God said, I'm going to implement a system of 21 million gold coins, but we're going to call them God coins, and I'm going to keep them in a bank in heaven, and I'm going to let you transfer any amount. I'm going to let you subdivide it by 100 million, and we'll call them Satoshis. And I will let you transfer peer-to-peer and pay anybody, anytime, instantly at the speed of light, and I will keep track of the ledger of who owes
in an incorruptible way.
I will never cheat you, and I will do it forever, for free. If God offered you that kind of divine bank, and you were sitting in Argentina when the currency was collapsing to zero, the Argentine peso went from $1 to the peso to 1,000 pesos to the dollar over 20 years. And it did it 5 times over the century.
Right.
Welcome to the Defion Productions podcast. I'm your host, the hardest working nobody in Bitcoin, Don. That is one of my favorite clips of Michael Saylor being interviewed by Jordan Peterson, talking about Bitcoin, trying to orange pill Mr. Peterson. Great clip. I thought it was a great way to start the vibes today for the podcast, showing that clip. Saylor did have a announcement this morning of another buy. I believe it's buy number 101, as the last one was buy number 100. So MicroStrategy made its 101st buy earlier this morning. Michael Saylor announced it on X, as he typically does on Monday mornings. We're going to jump right into the Bitcoin charts, because for the first time in about a month, maybe even longer, Rich, we're actually going to talk about a higher price than the previous podcast. I believe it's like 4 or 5 weeks of not being read. We had some very good price action overnight. We can start with the elephant in the room, talking about what happened over the weekend. If you're living under a rock, you wouldn't know, but I'm assuming most people watching this do know that Operation Epic Fury took full force against Iran over Saturday night, Friday going into Saturday. We attacked Iran with Israeli forces, took out the Ayatollah. Bitcoin crashed, went from about a price of 67,000 to roughly 63,000 during the course of that time, from like 2 in the morning Eastern Standard Time to about 5. Price really took a dump. Recovered a little bit later on Saturday, went to about 64-ish. And then yesterday started to recover, got to about 65, hung around 65 for most of the day. Earlier today, we did hit 70. Currently at this time at 6:37 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we are sitting at a price of 68,897, a 24-hour increase of about 4.76%. And like I said, from last week at this time when we filmed the podcast, we're up about 6%. Total market cap of crypto sitting at 1.377. Total market cap of crypto at 2.37 trillion. Fear and Greed Index sitting at 15. Going down the line, it looks like most, even altcoins, have risen in the past 24 hours to 7 days. Bitcoin Cash down 11% in the last 7 days. That's kind of funny. And basically everything else is green except for that. Zcash down 7% as well. A lot of activity. A lot of geopolitical uncertainty. I did check the commodities charts earlier today as well. Silver was down on the day, which was kind of surprising to me because gold was up. I believe gold was trading around 5,300. Silver was in the high 80s, and I think it did get back to about $90 an ounce. It was kind of weird to kind of, to see commodities either trading flat or down and Bitcoin being up quite a bit at this stage. Me and Rich were talking before we went live, looked at the oil prices. Oil is flat as well. WTI prices were flat, which I found kind of odd, but it is what it is. We did take out the Ayatollah allegedly, from what they're telling us. We've had pretty limited loss. Bombed, but thankfully we did not. Just a little bit of technical difficulties when you're live, but we're back.
My foot hit a cable.
Yeah, Rich's
like
foot hit the cable.
That.
Yeah, that happens. It's all good.
Cover for me. I'm an idiot.
I mean, when you're talking about Iran, you're talking about war, and all of a sudden we go dark. It's a little nerve-wracking. It's good to know that it was just your foot and it wasn't anything more serious. But I want to jump right into talking about this article here from Twitter. Patricia Marins, she wrote a good piece on the American debt and the attack on Iran. So I'm going to read through this, and then I've read it earlier. I want to read it. And Rich, I'd be intrigued to hear what you would think of these thoughts, because it's got some political and geopolitical ties, which is more your realm than mine, but it does talk finance as well. Marries the two together, so I'll read it, and then we can kind of talk about it after. The main concern for the American people should not be an attack on Iran, which would be just one of many in recent years, but rather the possibility of it escalating into a real regional war requiring enormous resources and generating even more debt. Wars have been the primary historical driver of spikes in U.S. public debt, financed mainly through loans, taxes, and currency issuance, which generates inflation and prolonged costs in operations, equipment, veteran care, and interest. Historically, conflicts such as the Civil War increased debt by 4,000%, from U.S. $65 million to U.S. $3 billion. World War I raised it from $1 billion U.S. to $25 billion U.S. World War II cost $4 trillion adjusted, pushing debt to 106% of GDP in 1946. The Korean War from 1950 to 53 cost about U.S. $655 billion adjusted for 2025, including direct and long-term costs, with defense spending reaching 13 to 14% of GDP. And the Vietnam War, 1955 to 75, totaled approximately $2.27 trillion adjusted for 2025, including operations, veterans, and other indirect costs financed by higher taxes and inflation. In recent wars, such as Iraq, Afghanistan, and the War on Terror, 2021 to 2022, total costs reached $8 trillion U.S., financed through debt without tax increases, including $2.3 trillion in direct operations and $2.2 trillion for veterans, with projected interest of $2 trillion by 2030. What would be the cost of a prolonged conflict with Iran? What I can say is that, combining operational and reconstruction expenses, each day of the war costs Israel $1.8 to $2.4 billion a day. If we imagine the situation amplified by American involvement, we could estimate something like $4 billion daily, assuming no losses. In the scenario of it dragging on for 3 months, it would generate a direct cost of $360 billion, not including human and material loss. A conflict with Iran would certainly involve loss, and this number could easily be multiplied several times. Then someone will say, but the U.S. and Israel will carry out a surprise and overwhelming attack to prevent Iran from using its missiles. Impressive, but the issue is that Israel, even with a fantastic ground operation and successive bombings, did not achieve this in the last war. And to complicate matters further, the U.S. did not achieve it in Iraq, when Saddam continued using his Scuds, nor in Yemen area ruled by Houthis, which is tiny. Why would this happen now with Iran? There's no way to say. I'll just go over there and neutralize a missile powerhouse with 90 million inhabitants and be right back. In this fragile moment, any attack on Iran becomes a war. The regime can no longer prearrange mutual and fake attacks because it is fragile. Any attack will turn into a war, and there are no short or cheap wars with a nation of 90 million people, especially one that could drag an entire region into it. And then it shows a chart. U.S. national debt set to rise by $2.4 trillion a year in the next 10 years. And if you take a look from 1901 where it starts, it's flatlined all the way until about the Vietnam time and all the way until 1971 when we get off the gold standard, and it just absolutely goes parabolic. And by 2026, we're sitting at $39 trillion of debt. And the projection is by 2036, which is 10 years from now, the debt is going to go from 39 to 64. So not go backwards like we're being told by MAGA or being told by our politicians or people saying, yeah, we're going to attack the debt through tariffs, all the stuff that you want to hear. We're projecting this thing to double, not go backwards, but to actually double. And entering a war in the Middle East and at the very least sending resources there and increasing spending and budgeting is not going to do anything to reduce the debt. If anything, it's going to be adding to the debt. Rich, your thoughts?
Well, first of all, when it comes right down to it, this is just the opposite of everything he promised to do. Even if we decided tomorrow Congress passes a balanced budget agreement and we never spent more than we have ever again, you can't even, how are we going to pay down a debt that's this big? In terms of the political stuff, this is just such a joke. It wasn't necessary. If we did such a great job taking out all their nuclear capabilities to generate blah, 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 build a bomb 8 months ago, whatever the heck it was, and all of a sudden it was back. So I don't believe there was an imminent threat. They do not have ballistic cruise missiles that can reach us. Actually, very few countries do. So we weren't in a threat. The only people that were threatened were the boats that we parked in those areas. It's again, like, the cost of this is going to be ridiculous. And even from the standpoint of, nobody likes Iran. Nobody thinks Iran's a great place. It used to, we propped up a government before, which led to all of this. In 1979, I'm old enough to remember the hostage situation, and again, they don't have a plan to replace the people. First of all, there is no apparatus. They've been entrenched for so long that they're part of police, they're part of the military.
When you say they, just for clarification for the viewers, who are you referring to when you say they?
I'm referring to this facade, this dream that somehow the people of Iran, or Trump and his friends have all said that the people of Iran can rise up. This is your chance. How? They're not the French freedom fighters in World War II. This is. They said, well, Hegseth said something about the police should be giving their weapons to the people, or what? That's not a thing. The country is also incredibly large, just 3 times larger than Iraq.
In size or people or both?
In people.
Both? Okay.
It's a ridiculously large country. It's a very diverse. It's worse in terms of the diversity of the people than we dealt with the Kurds and stuff in Iraq. There isn't an apparatus. Never ever has air power alone toppled a government. It's impossible. You're telling me we're gonna, us in the limited resources of Israel are going into a ground assault, to free up the government. It's just, there's so many things wrong with this. I'm sorry. I just don't understand why. As of last Friday, apparently there was a deal that could have gone through that was significantly better than the deal that supposedly that Obama had made, and they just decided to not do it. And then there's even the rumor today that Israel didn't want a deal, and they said we're just going in, and U.S. was like, sure, let's go too. I don't even think we had a plan for that.
Can we show what I got posted up here on the screen? So I post. No, it's fine. It was good. You're the guy. You're the geopolitical and the politics guy. I espouse that stuff. You're more studied than I am, so I divert to you always when we have those types of conversations. 9:30 last night, I posted this on X, and it's quickly becoming one of my most successful posts on Facebook. Oh, by the way, while I'm in the middle of doing this, because I'm absolutely awful at self-promotion, if you're watching this, please consider following me on all my socials. They're going at the bottom of the screen, at Renali Don, at Renali_Don on X, Defion Labs on YouTube, and Don NF Bitcoin Don on Facebook. And this is from my Facebook post that I posted last night at 7:30. I'm sorry, at 9:30. Last I looked, it had about 65,000 views, 30 comments, a ton of engagement in those comments. And I simply just posted this screenshot of a tweet that I came across last night. And it's from Bitcoin News. It says, Bitcoin's price in Iran has surged to nearly 100 billion IRR, which is their currency, the rial, as the Iranian rial collapsed to a record low of 1.5 million to $1 on Tuesday. And I posted as a caption to this, when you only view Bitcoin in US dollar terms, you completely miss the whole story. This one chart here showing the Iranian rial shows the why Bitcoin better than any regurgitated podcast, talking points, or hype crypto social media influencers. Read this post, look at this chart, and rethink how you view value and energy, let alone money. So what this post is showing is that the Iranian rial, which is a fiat currency, completely collapsed, which fiat currencies do. And people were getting involved in the comments, and some are making some good points. We're saying, what do you expect when there's conflict? It's a shit currency. It's going to go to, and it was like $0 in US dollar terms. And what I was trying to point out is that everybody gets so transfixed with always looking at US dollar value, like attributing US dollar value to everything. And when you only look at things through a US dollar fiat-based Ponzi scheme lens, you miss the point of everything. And it makes it very difficult to understand the why Bitcoin. And it got into a deeper conversation, and we talked about like gold and silver and commodities, and it got even deeper in regards to what about people that are trying to flee Iran right now, which I think people are doing. I think that's a logical place to come to. When you think, Rich, like people are probably trying to leave Iran since they're in the middle of a war right now.
Well, people have been trying to leave Iran since 1979.
Right.
I mean, that's why you saw so many Iranian nationals, people that are from Iran or their children, celebrating the death of the Ayatollah. We murdered him and a bunch of other people with weapons, and yeah. So there's like the Shah of Iran's son is, I forget the guy's name. He's still here, and they keep talking about, oh, he's ready to go back. Like, they don't want him back. Like, I don't think he wants to go back. Like, he's got a pretty nice life here in the United States. He's not going to go over there and try to fix the government, like, and try to bring back the era of the 1970s. Like, if you think that this is about the freedom of the Iranian people, okay, sure. But, I mean, like, I don't think there's anybody that's that naive, right? We all understand what this is about. We've got a list of 5 to 10 things of why we did this, and freedom of the Iranian people is not what this is about, and it's not about stabilizing their currency, and it's not about Bitcoin. We know what this is about. This is about oil and the Epstein files and a lot of other things.
Yeah. The point I was trying to make with this is that people that are fleeing Iran and want to get out of Dodge quickly, it becomes very difficult to transfer value and to take value with you.
Yes.
When you're trying to leave. You can't take your house with you, obviously. You're leaving that behind. And then the gold and silver guys are like, oh, well, if you need gold and silver if they're going to be transacting, you want to have gold. And it's like, no, man, like if you're getting the hell out of Dodge and you have any kind of significant value, like what do you put in a backpack? Like, and then the other thing is too, like when you leave your country, you're going to have to cross a border. And when you cross a border, it can be confiscated at the border.
Right.
Or taxed at the border.
Right.
Like, how are you going to hide that? You can't. And I was talking about how like somebody that had their wealth in Bitcoin, at the very least, there's a premium right now. It's trading higher in Iran right now than it is on the open market. I believe it's in the 70s. Like if you're transacting in Bitcoin in Iran right now, it's like 75K last I looked. And that might be even higher because it might have been at 75K when it was 65K. I'm not even sure at this point.
And I
but
guess if you're in a country that doesn't have a stable currency, like Bitcoin's a perfect answer.
Well, that, but also like you can get, if you're one of those people that have your value in Bitcoin, you have a USB and you just bounce. And you have that, as long as you have your 12 or 24 seed passphrase, even if they were to confiscate your actual device, you get another device. And as long as you have your seed phrase, you get access to your tokens.
Right.
It's the seed phrase that's more important than the device. But the more important thing is you can transfer your value and port it with you. Portability is a huge problem when it comes to gold and silver, and it doesn't exist with Bitcoin. And I was having conversations with people where I was saying Bitcoin is gold 2.0, and they're like, oh, it's not gold 2.0. Like, what happens when they take out the internet? And it's like the same shit, like the same take out the internet conversation. And to be fair, from what I was reading, the internet was down in Iran. But you can still move your tokens off chain and take your tokens with you to another country where there is internet and access your value.
Like once you get out of that country and you get access to the internet, you still have access. It's not like you get to the border of Iran and because the internet's down in Iran or anywhere that information's not on the internet. Like, and does somebody think they're taking down the entire internet? So, like, I remember this. If something comes and the entire internet's wiped out everywhere in the entire earth, I think we've got bigger problems. I don't think Bitcoin or dollars or gold or silver is going to help anybody if that's the situation.
Gold doesn't work because if you have gold ounces or you have gold, even gold grams, like how do you parse that and get change from that? Like if you're going to buy something that's $10, you do have $10 worth of gold or $10 worth of, like, it becomes very difficult.
It can be robbed very easily.
It's so much easier on the blockchain to parse out value 8 decimal points over to say, I'm sending you $10 in Bitcoin. Boom. Instant on the Lightning Network. Like, it's just so much. And again, I understand we're still so early. People don't understand the current system of finance. So how are they going to understand the new system of finance? But it's like, these are the times to have these conversations.
Government, do we know if they have any stake in? Do we know anything if
they have a sovereign wealth fund of Bitcoin?
Do we know?
To my knowledge,
if they've been progressive enough to think about that.
To my knowledge, I don't know offhand if they've been stacking or if it's ever been announced that they're stacking. I would guess if I had to make a estimated educated guess that they see what's going on around the world. They see what other countries are doing, especially sovereign wealth funds in the UAE and the Middle East are accumulating. At the very least, maybe they're getting exposure to ETFs or paper Bitcoin. I don't know if they actually have self-custody Bitcoin. I wouldn't be surprised, but I don't know for sure to make guaranteed one way or another point for that. Another post here from X. You can print dollars. You can't print energy. You can't print time. And you can't arbitrarily expand Bitcoin's supply. That's why Bitcoin is different. Its price is not driven by scarcity alone. Scarcity matters, but scarcity without adoption is just limitation. What moves price is simple. More people want it, while supply cannot respond. That is Bitcoin. Fixed supply schedule, growing adoption. Most assets can increase supply when demand rises. Bitcoin cannot. So when new capital arrives, price has to do the adjusting. That's the deeper point. Bitcoin is not just scarce. It is scarce and being adopted. That combination is rare. Most assets meet demand with more supply. Bitcoin meets demand with higher prices. And then you look at this right here. Let me see if I can make it bigger. Yeah, I can. Good. You can print dollars. You can't print energy. Bitcoin is a rare combination of scarcity and adoption. Most assets meet demand with more supply, and I think that's a dynamic point to drive home for people. Equity, you can buy more stuff, you can print more stock, buy back stocks. Real estate, you can make more houses. Even gold, they mine a certain amount of gold every single year. Dollars, you're just printing them. You're printing more dollars to meet demand. Bitcoin meets demand with price. When demand for Bitcoin goes up, the only thing that goes up is price. The supply does not go up. The supply is fixed. It's finite. It's very, very difficult for people to comprehend that. Fixed supply, growing adoption. I don't think that people truly understand what that means. And I think that's the disconnect of why people fight. And, the last 24 hours going back and forth on these posts, the narrative of Bitcoin going to zero, of NFTs, of crypto, of, increased supplies of XRP, increased supplies of all these meme coins. Like, people don't comprehend true scarcity because we've never been exposed to it. Bitcoin is the first. Bitcoin is the first to meet supply with higher prices, not meeting meeting demand with more supply. Everything else meets demand with more supply. Think about sports cards. Like, we've talked about that analogy before. Like, sports cards, look what happened in the 90s. Like, demand soared with sports cards. What did they do? They made more of them to meet the demand. Imagine if they didn't do that, how valuable those cards would have been. And they've learned. Like, now you have cards that are numbered, like one of ones, or even like lower numbered cards. And those cards are worth way more than the base cards that are printed in the millions. Card out of 10 or a card out of 50 has a significantly higher price point than a base card that's printed in the millions. Right? Like, demand is met with more supply everywhere except with Bitcoin. The protocol is what it is. There isn't going to be more than 21 million. And then here's another one here. I want to play this. Let me pause it so I can play a much smarter individual than myself explaining this a little bit more. This is Saifedean. Here's Saifedean talking about this as well.
All value is subjective. Whether it's gold, tomatoes, Bitcoin, bananas, whatever it is, people value it because they have placed subjective valuation on it. And that can happen for all sorts of reasons. And at a certain point, they placed a subjective valuation on this shiny yellow metal. And at a certain point, they placed subjective valuation on this digital representation of value, represented through private keys in a network that is decentralized, that is very robust, that allows you to send money internationally without having to go through intermediaries, which is something that nothing else allows you to do. And that creates demand for it. So everything generates demand, generates value. The question is, how it holds value. In your analysis, you said, gold was just this commodity that you could use as money. Why was it gold? Why not nickel? Why not copper? Why not any of those things? Again, all of those things have subjective valuation. Only one of them has a limited supply growth rate, and that's what Bitcoin has. And because of that, we see the $700 billion worth of new gold that's going to come onto the market at current prices. And that's the problem with gold.
So, going back to this tweet, all value is subjective. Gold, tomatoes, Bitcoin, bananas. Demand creates value, but supply determines who wins long term. Gold adds $700 billion in today's current prices in new supply every single year, and Bitcoin doesn't do that. And again, having this conversation about the why Bitcoin that, this whole podcast was created to kind of help answer. We have the internet, a global system of information, connection, and value, right? The internet is worldwide, World Wide Web. That's what it's basically called, right? And we have had nothing come along monetarily that connects the world together. The closest that we've had has either been gold or the world reserve currency of U.S. dollars. But still, even U.S. dollars being the world reserve currency is not necessarily transacted on an everyday basis in every part of the world. There's local currencies. So we never had global money. And having the internet, it only makes sense that the global money would be on the internet. It just makes logical sense. The global money being on the internet and being decentralized, completely immutable, programmable, having a fixed supply, like all these things that are just, unfortunately, at this point in time, too big of concepts for most people to understand, which is why they fight against it. And they support war, right? If you really understood the system and you understood how money was created, you wouldn't support war. Am I making does that make sense, Rich? I mean, what's your
for sure. I mean, that's the funny thing about all this stuff is that, wars are not cheap. Wars are not good for the economy, except for World War II, because it gave the United States really something to do.
It also set up Bretton Woods.
Yeah, like half of your labor force was not here, so there's just. But outside of World War II, rarely has a war been good for your economy. It's good for business because you're suddenly buying tanks and missiles and boats and stuff, and that's the. It's funny because I'm a big sci-fi guy too, and in every sci-fi in the future, they always have some kind of credit or unit, which is like a digital thing, and it's on a card, and you just touch that. Nobody's in the future in sci-fi.
It's always been that.
No one's ever walking around with
way before Bitcoin came along.
Right. Like, and it was like, it's not even like a credit card. Like, it was just like it's almost like a debit card, but like in the future, everything we always have one. The Earth has one.
You never
unit.
see money in the future.
No,
you never see cash.
No, rarely do you see like every once there's a few specialized things where they do, but most of the time it's just like the entire universe has gone to like one system of thing, and we and they always talk about in the future. Well, the economics of the future will be very different. And like gold will be useless or worthless, and it's funny. Like, so we love it in sci-fi, but like, I get, it's in Star Wars they do everything like imperial credits and they're not worth anything. I guess at some point, after the collapse of the empire. But it is like we have it in our literature, we have it in our movies, we have what a digital currency is in so many things, but in our real lives, so many people are just thinking, oh, it's just a scam. Just like, okay.
Put this tweet up here. I want to share this, and I want to drive this point really home. Everyone's watching the war. In 2 weeks, and this was posted March 1st, which was yesterday, the 20 millionth Bitcoin will be mined. So 2 weeks from yesterday, the 20 millionth of 21 million Bitcoin will be mined. 95% of all Bitcoin that will ever exist will be mined 2 weeks from yesterday. The last 1 million will take 114 years to mine. So think about that for a second. Let's pause. 95% of the supply, the first 20 million, will have been mined in the first 17 years of this project, experiment, whatever you want to call it. The last million, the last 5%, will take 114 years to be released, to be mined. And that's programmed. It can't change. It's not going to change in 10 years. It's not going to change in 14, 20, 50. You got to wait 104. All of us will be dead. Everybody watching this podcast will be long gone. Void extreme measures of advancements in medicine. We'll all be dead. Yet people are panic selling at 65K right before one of the biggest supply milestones in Bitcoin's history. And this is the other thing that's like really testing my patience, this epoch. Again, I said last podcast and the podcast before, I'm no longer referring to these things as cycles. I don't believe in cycles. I've stopped subscribing to cycles. It's epochs. Every 4 years, we have an epoch. And that's what we're going to call it on this podcast. So this epoch, what's really been just like bothering me is watching people revert back to the same shit they were saying in 2014, 2018, and 2022, because I was here for all of it. And I listened to it every single time. And here we are in 2026, and the same things are being said. Bitcoin's going to go to zero. Bitcoin has no value. Nobody's going to use it. Bitcoin is dead. They say it every single time. And we just have to sit and wait until it hits an new all-time high again, which it's done every single time before. And again, this thing is programmed. It's going to do what Bitcoin does. TikTok, next block, every 10 minutes, new block. And we just have to sit here and listen to these people do their victory laps. I guess that's what you would call it when they get excited because the price is down. And by down, it's worth $70,000 almost still for this fake internet money, right? Like, think about that. Like, they're calling this thing shot, and it's worth $60,000, and they think it doesn't exist and it has no value, but it's worth $60,000 in the market. And I even said this earlier, and I said, you have to recognize that that's an opinion because it's not based in fact or reality. The market has determined it's worth $69,000, wherever we're sitting at right now. I'll take a look. $68,900. The market's determined that. I even said that I can list a plethora of stocks right now that I think are worth zero because they have negative cash flow and they produce no profits. Yet they have valuations in the billions. To me, that shit is worth nothing. But the market says, I don't know what I'm talking about, and it values it at billions of dollars.
What can you give me an example of that type? What type of stock are you talking about?
I can't tell you right now to be a fact, but I do know at one point in time, and maybe it still is, I'm not sure, Uber was operating at like close to $1 billion of loss per year.
Right.
Yet the stock was worth multiple tens of billions of dollars. So it had negative cash flow. It was operating at a loss, yet the stock had value. And in some cases would go up when it would report that it lost less money. It didn't report that it made money. It would report that it lost less money, and the stock price will go up. And to me, logically, I'm like, you're not producing value. And that's subjective to me. In many ways they are, because it's a new and you could talk about the technology and all the advancements it's doing and what it's doing for society and the value it provides the riders. All that stuff is fair. But I can make a statement that's an opinion and say it has no value, and the market can punch me in the face and say, you don't know what you're talking about. So the people saying Bitcoin has no value are being punched in the face by a $69,000 price, telling you that your opinion means nothing.
Interesting.
Right? I mean,
yeah, no, it's a really good point, and I never thought of that. I mean, never thought of that, like, comparing it to, like, a company, like, for example, or a stock that has no value, but for some reason it's inflated. Like, the one that's kind of funny is, like, the GameStop one. Like GameStop for some odd reason, and it started almost as like an experiment to see if they could get it to have value, and it's still kind of floating around out there. But like, you know, and even like companies that are high in value, like the Tesla Corporation, is incredibly high in value, but it doesn't, like, the company's bleeding money. Like, it can't sell its product. It's fallen behind other companies that it's not the highest, the most selling. For whatever reason, you can talk about the politics stuff. It doesn't matter. The point is that it's not. It's how is it still worth so much when no one wants to buy these vehicles? And again, so it's maybe got value because of its operations, its warehouses or whatever. But it's not. It's still, like you've called it before, like a tech stock.
Put the screen up right now. While you're talking, I want you, the viewers, to take a look at this. Microsoft, right? Successful company, right? One of the Mag 7, right? Isn't Microsoft one of the Mag 7, I believe?
I believe so, yeah.
Super successful company, super successful history. It's down 21% in the last 6 months. It's lost a fifth of its value, right? In the last 6 months. Does that make Microsoft a shit company and a scam and it's going to zero and it has no value? Is that the game that we're playing? Is that how we, like, because Bitcoin's down 50%, which, I mean, 13 times in its history, it's been down 70 plus. We're down less than that right now. In each one of those times, 13 times it's been down 70. It's come back to reach a new all-time high, which stocks like Microsoft do and have done. Amazon. You gave Tesla. Tesla was down like 50-something% at one point. They were getting crushed, and they came back. Facebook, after its IPO, was down like 60%. Like, this is what new shit does.
Right.
And Bitcoin is still new. In the grand scheme of, like, currencies and how we value things and how we view money, it's brand new.
Right.
Absolutely brand new.
And I guess going back to, like, the tech stock stuff, the 2000s, a lot of those companies turned out to be shit, but some of them are still around and some of them still exist and some of them are quite big. And that's kind of how I view Bitcoin. I mean, most of these other shit coins are not going to be around in 20 years. Or if they're around, they're really not worth anything. They're just like a really, really bad currency that has no value. But Bitcoin seems to be the only one because of its unique resources and
programmability and scarcity.
There's
and
so many
inability
things
to
that
hack.
make it different from anyone else. The fact that there's not a board of directors sitting around deciding how to fuck with it compared to everything else in the world.
Everything else.
Everything else. There's
even crypto, even the crypto tokens.
Right.
Even crypto. Like, the only good thing that's happened this epoch, or this part of the epoch, and even the quote unquote bull run part of the epoch, has been, if you're paying attention to this ecosystem in this space, you've had a great education in why we've been saying Bitcoin maxis for a decade plus, Bitcoin, not crypto.
Right.
And we've been proven correct. If not the whole FTX fiasco of 2022, if you didn't get it then, you got it this year. At least you should get it this epoch, unless you're just a straight up fiat-based maxi, debt-based Ponzi scheme maxi, and everything you view is in devalued, debased dollars, and that's all you can see. You can't see past that, so you don't even know that you're being screwed. You have no idea you're being fucked. So if you don't know that, then you don't know that something better exists that can preserve your value. And you get caught up in the last, 9 months where this thing has gone down, and you don't zoom out and look at the entire chart or look at something like Amazon and Netflix, who went down 97% the first couple of years of both of those stocks before they found their footing. Bitcoin, to be fair, is still finding its footing. It's still finding its footing. And even 17 years in, it's still finding its footing. And the world is still trying to wrap its head around what's happening. The next video I want to show, because we're getting short on time, and I don't want to. I have a couple other things I want to say, but I do want to show this because we talked about Iran, we talked about what's going on with that conflict, and I want to say, I end this podcast the same way I've done it every single time that we've done a podcast, and it's the ethos of Bitcoin, and I believe it to my core. And this last year of politics and just where we're going with AI and where we're going in the world in general has made this statement ring more true beyond just Bitcoin and everything else, more than I can even have seen coming. And that's don't trust, verify, because there is almost nothing that I'm trusting out here, both in stuff that I see, stuff that I hear, I'm going to play this clip. And this Bruce Fenton, who is a great follow, he's a Bitcoiner, but he's really into politics as well. And he tweeted this. I saw this speech. He seemed to really believe it. It was consistent with what he'd been saying for years. Rejecting neocon policies could have been a new era for America. What made someone who was consistently anti-war do a 180 and immediately start a massive war? I'm going to play this clip. This is our current president in May of 2025, less than a year ago. So this is less than a year ago. This is not AI. This is an actual video of our current president who made the decision to attack Iran 2 days ago, speaking.
And it's crucial for the wider world to note this great transformation has not come from Western interventionists or flying people in beautiful planes giving you lectures on how to live and how to govern your own affairs. No, the gleaming marvels of Riyadh and Abu Dhabi were not created by the so-called nation builders, neocons, or liberal nonprofits like those who spent trillions and trillions of dollars failing to develop Kabul, Baghdad, so many other cities. Instead, the birth of a modern Middle East has been brought by the people of the region themselves, the people that are right here, the people that have lived here all their lives, developing your own sovereign countries, pursuing your own unique visions and charting your own destinies in your own way. It's really incredible what you've done. In the end, the so-called nation builders wrecked far more nations than they built, and the interventionists were intervening in complex societies that they did not even understand themselves. They told you how to do it, but they had no idea how to do it themselves. Peace, prosperity, and progress ultimately came not from a radical rejection of your heritage, but rather from embracing your national traditions and embracing that same heritage that you love so dearly.
Neocons catching strays, and then 2 days ago, Trump is using their playbook. What do you think, Rich? You're more well versed in that. What did you take away from that maybe I don't see, or that I'm missing of what?
I hate to say it, but every time that guy talks, I'm at that point. It's just gobbledygook. I don't even know what he's saying anymore.
He's getting progressively worse.
It wasn't concise,
right?
It was all over the place.
Like he's almost he is 80, right?
Yeah,
I
don't know. I mean, and I don't think he believes it. And anything he said in that I watched did not for a moment make me believe that he believed any of it, because he says something and then a day later he's doing the complete opposite anyway. So yeah, I don't take a lot of anything from that speech. It's like he said, like, he talks about Saudi Arabia and all that type of stuff, but he's kind of like he's literally hanging them out to dry right now. There's a lot of reports that that Saudi Arabia posted they're pretty upset. Came out and said they're pretty upset with the president because they pulled resources out of Saudi Arabia to protect Saudi Arabia to protect Israel, and there's and that's, you need Saudi Arabia, like we need them, and if just from place to land your planes and all that other stuff.
They got attacked too, didn't they? Didn't Iran attack them?
They did, and
Dubai got attacked too.
Yeah.
Like, how's Dubai catching strays? I don't get that. Like, why Dubai?
Well, in my opinion, like their Iran is going to be like, we can't hit Brooklyn, we can't hit United States, we can't hit
because they don't have missiles that can do that.
We
right?
don't have, so we're going to take out the people. We're going to take out the oil refinery. Like, if you're going after us, we're gonna roast the entire economy because you're bombing our stuff, so we're gonna bomb your stuff, and that's what they'll do. And then
why? Can I ask you this question? Because I don't know the answer.
Yeah.
Genuinely asking this as somebody who's looking for information. Why do you think Iran sends missiles to Tel Aviv when they know that the Iron Dome is going to knock down 98% of them? What is the point?
So the Iron Dome is not a dome.
I know
it's a missile defense system.
I know, but that's
but people act like it has an endless supply of missiles to knock out these things. In my opinion, on the research that I've been watching, a fair amount of streams, Iran's plan is, and I don't want to go too far.
Exhaust their supply.
What is make them use all their things, and then they're going to just start sending in the drones.
Real attack.
They have drones that are like significantly cheaper.
That's what they attack their air bases with.
There's a chart I saw today on whatever I was watching.
Didn't they use the drones to attack our air bases?
Yeah, like the drones are nothing. They cost nothing, and it costs us millions of dollars to knock down one drone, and their drones are like $20,000. So like it's a war of economics. We laughed at Russia in the 1980s when they decided to invade Afghanistan, and then what did we do 10 years later? We tried to invade Afghanistan, and Russia collapsed their economy because Russia's significantly damaged their economy trying to invade the Ukraine. And now we're doing the same stupid thing that we did. It's going to cost us. And again, like you always say, they're just going to, it's not going to bankrupt the United States because we'll just print more stuff. But it just continues to lower the value of the currency. And I can't believe Iran has been expecting this for years. They've had 40 years to prepare for this.
Can I ask another question? Because I know we're running short on time, and I want to make sure I get this one in too. In your opinion, because this is we're espousing opinions here. Why are we so worried about Iran having nukes when we know Russia has nukes? We know because we've seen North Korea has nukes, China has nukes, and those are way more formidable enemies than Iran is. I think I know the answer, and I have my own opinion, but I want to hear you say what you think it is. Why?
My opinion is that we don't want the United States and England and everybody does not want another North Korea. And that's really what it comes down to. We don't really mess with North Korea. We could, but we don't because they have a nuclear weapon. And it's the same reason that we kind of have to play nice with Russia. Russia's a little bit more stable. We're all pretty much sure that the guy who's running North Korea is kind of nuts. And I think that there is this fear because of our fear of the Iranian religious sect that runs Iran, that they are so convinced, and again, this goes back to this crap about the Quran, that they have their way of doing things, and they fund terrorism, and people feel that if Iran gets a nuclear weapon, the fear has always been that they will use that nuclear weapon to wipe Israel off the map, because that's their biggest rival, and that's really why we are so fearful. But we have been hearing for 30 years that Iran is 12 minutes away from developing a nuclear weapon.
Yeah, and like, if you look at a map, I saw this today, there's like 45 U.S. air bases and battleships that surround Iran.
Yeah.
So how are they not supposed to feel like we should defend ourselves?
It's interesting too.
And I'm not defending Iran. I'm just asking.
I understand that, and I'm not defending Iran either. I don't think Iran's a great place. Like,
agreed.
We continue like the Houthis, for example. The Houthis, we couldn't even defeat the Houthis in the region.
Yeah, I talked about it in that thing that I read earlier. That
the Houthis, we have this incredible military, but the Houthis are incredibly resilient, and they just really good at what they do. And now the Houthis are back doing things, and the problem is that we are still in this big system in the United States because we have the industrial military complex. That we still think having the biggest bomb and the biggest plane is the way to go. When's the last time we went to war? Where we're fighting.
When's the last time? I'm asking like I guess an objective question. We didn't win Vietnam.
No.
I wouldn't call the Iraq and Afghanistan wars a victory. Like we were there for 20 years. Like what the hell? Like there's still nothing. We didn't get democracy out of any of those places, which was supposed to be what our goal was.
Right.
So when's the last time we actually like won something.
I mean, and I would even argue that we won Korea. Like, Korea was a negotiated treaty eventually. Eventually, they had to come to the table and negotiate things. Even World War II, military might alone, it was economic. Like, really what it was is they ran out of stuff.
Our allies really were winning it for us than us?
People act, I mean, and I love I love my country, and I don't want anyone to think I don't love my country. I love my country, but at the same time, we act like we won World War II. We ended the war in the Pacific without a doubt with the atom bomb. We ended it. But in Europe, Russia was the key. Like, the biggest mistake Hitler made was going after Russia, and Russia just kept putting people there and people there and people there. He wasted time trying to get to Leningrad and all these other crazy things that he did. And because the guy was insane, like Hitler was insane, and he didn't listen to his generals, and they basically ran out of resources because they grew too fast and they didn't have enough resources. But it was, again, the United States and England could not have defeated Germany by themselves. Russia creating that second front to the east is really what happened. I mean, but back to Iran, like, it's just. I'm not saying we can't defeat Iran, but I don't understand how you win that war. It is the culture of Iran with that Islamic religion running the country is embedded in all forms of the government, and you can't go in and invade. So all we're going to do is bomb them, and then we're going to run out. And in the meantime, it's going to be unpopular because eventually they're going to start to be able to do a lot of damage with those drones. They already are. And it's poorly organized. Like, we had one of our allies shot down 3 of our own planes because we're so this is an uncoordinated war that was not planned at all. The United States won the invasion of Iraq, but then lost the war. They won the invasion, but lost the war because they thought they could create a government and society, and that, like we did in Japan at the end of World War II. We don't know how to do that.
All right, we can start to wind it down. Again, we got like 61 live viewers right now, so I'll say it again. Please follow me on all socials if you haven't already. Subscribe to the podcast, jump in the comments, let us know. We talked about a lot of stuff today. We talked about Iran. We talked about Bitcoin and how it relates to everything that's going on. So let us know what you think. If you watch it on playback, same thing. I'll end the podcast with this. It's a 13-second video. I'm not going to play it. I'll just read it if you want to put it on the screen. This is Milton Friedman, and he said, "The government doesn't have any money. Only people have money. The government only gets money by putting its hands in your pocket and taking it out." Read that again. As always, thanks for watching throughout all the self-promotion twice today, which is way better than I ever do. Thank you for watching, whoever did. Much appreciated. Thanks for supporting. And as always, don't trust, verify. Peace.